This is a picture of my mom. She's 74-year-old. I would like to dedicate tonight's Dhamma sharing to her, wishing her safe, healthy, and happy. My mom was actually involved in an accident in the December last year. She was unfortunately hit by a car and sustained very serious leg injury. But thank Buddha, things are improving. She's able to walk now. Though she can't walk very freely, she's still limping, but at least she can walk. Yeah, so I really would like to dedicate this talk to her, share all the merits, the joy with her, wishing her a speedy recovery. In the Buddhist scripture, the Buddhist teaching, the Buddha is often described as a doctor. More specifically, the Buddha is described in the sutta as Anuttaro Bisako Salakato. Anuttaro Bisako Salakato. And literally, that's in Pali. Literally in English, it means supreme or unsurpassed physician and surgeon. Yeah, so the Buddha as a supreme surgeon and physician will be interesting for us to find out what he has to say on our topic tonight, which is basically on how to be mentally healthy when we are physically sick. Let me share with you the origin of this evening's Dhamma talk, the title, the origin of the title. Actually, the title of this talk is inspired from one of the Buddhist sutta found in the Samyutta Nikaya Sutta number 22.1. The name of the sutta is called Nakula Pitta Sutta. Nakula Pitta Sutta, in English, is called Nakula's father. So in this particular sutta, there was this layman, this householder, which was Nakula's father. He was very elderly. He was an old man, and he had a conversation with the Buddha, and he said this. So Nakula's father said, "Sir, I'm old, elderly, and senior. I'm advanced in years and have reached the final stage of life. My body is ailing, and I'm constantly unwell. Out of compassion, can you share the Dhamma with me?" Yeah, so this was asked by Nakula's father. Yeah, the name of the sutta is named after Nakula's father asked this, and the Buddha gave the advice: you should train yourself like this. Though my body is ailing, my mind will be healthy. That's very similar to tonight's topic of discussion, isn't it? The title of this sharing is "Though my body is sick, my mind shall be healthy." Whereas what the Buddha said is, "Though my body is ailing, my mind will be healthy." That was what the Buddha said. Unfortunately, Nakula's father didn't ask the Buddha to elaborate on what the Buddha meant by "though my body is sick, my mind shall not be healthy." So the Nakula's father just heard the Buddha saying, and he just left. But fortunately, later when he met Venerable Sariputta, one of the two chief disciples of the Buddha, actually Venerable Sariputta helped to explain what the Buddha said. So tonight, we don't have the Buddha with us. We also don't have Venerable Sariputta with us. But at least I'm here to help you to understand what the Buddha meant by "though the body is sick, our mind should be healthy." Yeah, so that's the origin of the title for tonight's Dhamma sharing. I will divide tonight's talk into three parts. So this talk has three objectives. Okay, the first part, I'm going to talk to you on the definitions of mental health from a medical perspective and the definition of mental health from a Buddhist perspective, because the talk is basically about how to stay mentally healthy when we are sick. Okay, then the second part, which is the more important part, is to how to improve our mental health when we're physically sick. When we are physically sick and when our mental health deteriorates, what can we do? to improve our mental health. And the last part is on prevention. The second part is when we are already sick, our mental health deteriorates. How can we improve our mental health? The third part is for prevention. So we are not sick yet, but how to prevent that when in the future, when we are physically sick, how we can be mentally healthy. And most importantly, under the last part, I'll also share with you on how to be totally free from sickness physically and mentally. Okay, so the first part is on the definitions of mental health. What do we mean by mentally healthy? Yeah, there are many ways of looking at it. So in this slide, I try to give you a simple and practical definition. I define mental health in two ways. One is from the medical perspective, and the other one is from the Buddhist perspective. So what does it mean to be mentally healthy from a medical perspective? Yeah, so I'm a medical doctor. So from a medical perspective, mentally healthy means to be free from excessive negative emotional states like stress, anxiety, depression, fears, and worry. You still remember one of the previous speakers, I think it was Sister May Liu Mayuk. She talked about healthy and unhealthy emotions. Yeah, so we can relate the talk to these definitions of mental health from medical perspective. So from a medical perspective, to be mentally healthy means to be free from excessive negative emotional states, which is basically stress, anxiety, and depression. Yeah, some of you might be thinking, some of you might be asking, a lot of my patients in my clinic, they ask me, doctor, isn't it when we are physically sick, it's normal to have a little bit of stress, little bit of anxiety, little bit of depression? Is that normal? And the answer is yes, it's normal. When we are physically sick, we are still humans, we are not enlightened. It's normal to have a little bit of stress, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of depression, a little bit impatient, a little bit irritable. That is very normal. Okay? But when a person is mentally unhealthy, the person has excessive, too much of stress, too much of anxiety, too much of depression. It's very important to be mentally healthy, to be free from excessive stress, anxiety, and depression when we're physically sick, because the medical science research, neuroscience research have consistently shown that when we are physically sick, if we don't take good care of mental health, when we have physical illness, we have too much of stress, anxiety, and depression, that will impair the process of recovery of any form of physical illness. Yeah, any type of physical illness. Doesn't matter whether it's diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol problem, heart attack, stroke. Whenever there's excessive stress, anxiety, depression, it will always worsen the outcome. It will always worsen the recovery of those physical illness. Okay, so that's the medical definitions of poor mental health. Okay, so when we are physically sick, medically we should try our best to be free from excessive stress, anxiety, and depression. Okay, on the right hand side is the definitions of mental health from a Buddhist perspective. So from a medical perspective is to free from excessive stress, anxiety, and depression. And from a Buddhist perspective is actually to be free from the spiritual poisons of greed, hate, also known as anger, and ignorance. Medical point of view is to free from excessive stress, anxiety, depression. From the Buddhist perspective is to be free from greed, hate, also known as anger, and ignorance. Yeah. We'd like to highlight the ignorance here. The ignorance here is referring to spiritual ignorance. It's not worldly ignorance. Okay, some of you might be asking, what's the difference between worldly ignorance and spiritual ignorance? Spiritual ignorance refers to ignorance of the Four Noble Truths, Noble Eightfold Path, not understanding, not knowing the Four Noble Truths, Noble Eightfold Path, not understanding karma and rebirth, not understanding the characteristics of existence, the anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, non-self, and suffering. It's referring to spiritual, those are known as spiritual ignorance. It's not referring to worldly ignorance like which doctor should I consult when I sick, whether the medicine has side effect or no side effect, should I take the medicine or not to take medicine. Those are ignorance as well, but those are not spiritual ignorance. Yeah? So why is it important to be free from these spiritual poisons of greed, hate, and ignorance? One of the reasons is if we have a lot of greed, hate, and ignorance, it will lead us to break the precepts, the 5 precepts of abstaining from killing, abstaining from stealing, abstaining from sexual misconduct, abstaining from false speech, and abstaining from intoxicants. So when we break the precepts, we generate unwholesome karma. And unwholesome karma can actually obstruct or hinder in our physical disease recovery. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to highlight in this slide. Mentally healthy can have 2 meanings. Medical one is to be free from excessive stress, anxiety, and depression, whereas the Buddhist one is to be free from spiritual poisons of greed, hate, and ignorance. Okay, this is a very important sutta related to what we are discussing. Okay, this sutta is actually found in the Samyutta Nikaya Sutta number 36.6. The name of the sutta is called Sala Sutta, also known as the Arrow Sutta or the Dart Sutta. This is a very interesting sutta. Let me share with you the content of the sutta. Those of you who want to read more of the sutta, you can actually scan the QR code, then you get access to the sutta in Pali and in English. But let me brief to you what is written in the sutta. In this particular sutta, the Buddha was having a conversation with a group of monks, and the Buddha said that ordinary people experience physical pain, wise people experience physical pain as well. What is the difference between an ordinary person and a wise person in the way they relate to physical pain? Yeah, so let's think about it. What do you think was the Buddha's answer? The Buddha answered that an ordinary person experiences physical pain. There is physical pain plus mental pain. So when an ordinary person experiences physical pain, it's like being shot by 2 arrows or 2 darts. The first arrow represents physical pain or physical illness, whereas the second arrow or second dart represents the mental pain. And the mental pain is related to what I've just described just now under the spiritual poisons of greed, hatred, and delusion. Remember? So first arrow is purely physical pain, whereas the second arrow is the mental pain, the mental poison of greed, hate, and delusion. So for a wise person, when a wise person has a physical pain, the wise person is only shot by 1 arrow without the second arrow. So it's only pure physical pain. There's only physical illness, physical pain without greed, hatred, and delusion or ignorance. So there's something very important for us to remind ourselves. So whenever we experience physical illness, we should remind ourselves, we should limit ourselves to only 1 arrow, just the pure physical sickness, physical pain without the second arrow. So we try to minimize the excessive stress, anxiety, depression, and we try our best to free ourselves from greed, hate, and spiritual ignorance. Free from greed, hate, spiritual ignorance. Okay, I would like to highlight that the concept of mental illness in Buddhism and the concept of mental illness in the modern medicine and modern psychiatry is actually different. Yeah. So I'm a Buddhist, I'm also a psychiatrist, so I would like to take this opportunity to highlight the difference, and it's important to understand the difference. In the Roga Sutta, and one of the Buddhist sutta in the Roga Sutta found in the Anguttara Nikaya Sutta 4.157, the Buddha actually talked about 2 types of illness. the physical illness and mental illness. Some of us are confused with what the Buddha mean by mental illness in the Roga Sutta and other sutta as well. Actually, when the Buddha talks about mental illness in the Buddhist scripture, the Buddha always refer to the spiritual poisons of greed, hate, and spiritual ignorance. So I would like to make this clear. Okay? So whenever you read about the word mental illness in the Buddhist scripture, the Buddha is not referring to psychiatric disorder or mental disorder like panic disorder, bipolar depression, schizophrenia, those mental disorder that I treat in my clinic. I'm a psychiatrist. Okay? I run a psychiatric clinic at the Simile Medical Center. Yeah. So it's important to differentiate the mental illness from a Buddhist perspective, the mental illness from a medical perspective. This is very important because the understanding will help us to reduce the stigma and prejudice towards people who are suffering from mental illness. Because of this stigma, prejudice, there's a lot of shame. A lot of people with mental illness, they refuse to seek professional help. To begin with, mental illness itself is already a lot of stigma. So if we add on to the stigma of a small sort of spiritual shame, adding that, wow, you got mental illness, is associated with greed, associated with hate, associated with spiritual ignorance, it will add on to the stigma and prejudice. Okay, I hope this is clear. If you are not clear, feel free to clarify during the Q&A session. So mental illness from a Buddhist perspective is always about greed, hate, spiritual ignorance. Whereas mental illness from the medical psychiatrist perspective, you're talking about mental illness and about freeing ourselves from excessive stress, anxiety, and depression. In the tonight sharing, I will also be sharing with you how I convey some of the messages found in this talk with my mom. Remember, I told you earlier, my mom was hit by a car last year. She sustained a severe leg injury. So now I've been staying with my mom, and I want to give the best to my mom. I want to give the best care to my mom. And from a Buddhist perspective, the Buddha says that the greatest gift is actually the gift of Dharma. So I'm trying my best to share the Dhamma with my mom. Yeah. So whatever that I'm sharing with you tonight, I'm also trying my best to share with my mom. Yeah. So my mom is Chinese speaking. Yeah. So I have if I were to share things with her in English, it will be challenging. So I translated some of the words, the concept in this talk with her. So I would like to share with you. Okay. For example, the title of the tonight sharing, the title is though my body is sick, my mind shall be healthy. In Chinese, I translated it as 生病心不病. 生病心不病. You want to translate literally, 生病 is body sick. 心不病 is the mind is not sick. So it is one of the very simple ways for me to remind my mom to take good care of her physical health and mental health. Body is sick, the mind shall not be sick. 生病心不病. Then just now in the slide on the definitions of good mental health, mental health from a medical perspective and mental health from a Buddhist perspective, I told my mom this too. Okay, I told my mom that some gain you change, some more you choy. If you don't speak Cantonese, it's okay. For those of you who speak Cantonese, you may understand what I mean. Actually, the meaning are the same. I just put it into Cantonese. Yeah. So in Cantonese, I told my mom, some gain you change, some more you choy. Some gain you change means the mindscape. The mindscape has to be clear and still. Some more you choy is to clear the spiritual poison of greed, hate, and spiritual ignorance. Yeah. So the every day, especially the full moon and new moon. I think yesterday was new moon. Every full moon and new moon, I will try to give my mom a booster sessions to share more Dhamma with her, to remind her, 生病心不病, some gain you take, some more you trade. Yeah. So if you are staying with your family members who are either sick or sick or not well, if you want to share the Dhamma, if they're English speaking, feel free to share whatever I share with you tonight with her. If they're Chinese speaking, consider some of these keywords. 生病心不病, and some gain you take, some more you trade. Okay, let's move on. Now we go to the more important part. How exactly can we improve our mental health? Just like I mentioned about the mental health from medical perspective, the mental health from a Buddhist perspective. Now is the how part. So when we are physically sick now, what are the ways that we improve our mental health? Yeah, so there are many ways. So in this talk, I'll summarize them into 5 points or 5 ways. Okay, and the 5 ways are loving kindness, joy or gratitude, transform fear, relax to the max, and focus on what can I do. Under each method, I will give you 1 or 2 practical ways to cultivate the practice. Loving kindness is actually based on Metta meditation, the Buddhist teachings of Metta or loving kindness, or in positive psychology is called positive vision. In Pali is Metta, English translation is loving kindness. In psychology, we use the principle of loving kindness for therapy as well. It's called positive vision. Yeah, there are many ways to cultivate Metta. Okay, one of the creative ways that I teach in my clinic for my patients to cultivate Metta is by singing the Rasa Sayang song. I think most of us here are familiar. If you're Malaysian, you're familiar with this Malaysian folk song known as Rasa Sayang. Yeah, I've adapted the lyrics of this song so that it's consistent with the Buddhist teachings of loving kindness. Okay, I will sing the song to you. Okay, I will sing the song to you. That's how it sounds. Rasa sayang, hey, rasa sayang, sayang, hey, hey, may I, may you, may all be happy. May I, may you, may all be safe, healthy, and happy. May I, may you, may all be safe, healthy, and happy. Yeah. Okay. So as I will sing one more time. As I'm singing, you can hum it in your heart as well. Rasa sayang, hey, rasa sayang, sayang, hey, hey, may I, may you, may all be safe, healthy, and happy. May I, may you, may all be safe, healthy, and happy. Yay. Okay, so we sing the song and we radiate loving kindness, radiate good thoughts, happy thoughts, to ourselves, to our loved ones. Okay, so this is one of the way that I share the Dhamma with my mom. So I told my mom every night before you sleep, you should sing this song. So she listens to me. Actually, one of the problems is insomnia. Elderly cannot sleep, so I teach her to sing this song. So every night before sleep, she will try to sing this song. You can also sing this song with the hand gestures as well. Sing this song with hand gestures. Yeah. So I will show you how to sing with hand gestures. Rasa sayang, hey, rasa sayang, sayang, hey, hey, may I, may you, may all be safe, healthy, and happy. May I, may you, may all be safe, healthy, and happy. Yay. Then you mentally send good wishes to ourselves, good wishes to our body, our mind, and our loved ones. Yeah.
Dr. Phang,
Yes.
would would we be able to sing along with you?
I think a bit challenging with Zoom. Do you think it's possible?
Well,
Try.
I think those who are keen to try, we can actually try doing that.
Sure. Okay. You try.
Brother Mingzi, is it possible to unmute? Brother Mingzi?
Is it possible to unmute? Yeah.
If Brother Mingzi is not available right now, perhaps we can do it after
Okay,
your
done.
Yeah.
Done.
Oh, yeah. For everyone, Brother Mingzi,
Mute for everyone.
perhaps we do it for at the end of the session then.
Also can.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Also can. Yeah. So how we can apply this practice? Of course, we can sing it before we sleep. In my clinic, I teach this a lot to my patient. For example, recently I have a patient in my clinic who had a lot of anxiety and also a lot of stomach problem. Anxiety often comes with a stomach problem, stomach bloating, a lot of gas in the stomach, a lot of vein. So the next day, the next day she was supposed to go for a scope of the stomach, a scope of the stomach. Those of you with anxiety, you understand that is a horrible experience. You need to go for scope. So it's very kanchang, a lot of fear and worries. So I taught her this song. Okay, so I give her the instructions. So tomorrow when you go to the scope room, the clinic, okay, while waiting for your turn to do the scope, instead of worrying non-stop, you should sing this song in the clinic. Of course, you don't have to sing it aloud. When you're in a public place, you don't sing it aloud. But I told her to sing it in the heart. Sing it in the heart. Then I said, and after the singing, so I told her to radiate kindness to all the people in the clinic. For example, I said, you can say, may my doctor be safe, healthy, and happy. May the nurse be safe, healthy, and happy. Okay? May all the patients who are waiting in the clinic be safe, healthy, and happy. May everyone who have the same stomach condition like me be safe, healthy, and happy. Then repeat the song. Rasa sayang, hey, rasa sayang, sayang, hey. May you, may all be safe, healthy, and happy. Then wish again, wish again. She was very quiet, very obedient. She followed exactly what I said. The week after that, she returned to share the experience. I said, doctor, thank you very much. It was very good. So I was very calm, Usually I worry, usually in the clinic, in the scope room, my mind will be running 100 miles per hour, But with this practice, it helped her to be calm, to go for the scope. So very useful. Whenever you're physically sick, sing this song in the heart. In case you like a Chinese version, actually I don't teach the English version to my mom. To my patients, I teach the English version. To my mom, as I said, she's a Chinese speaking, so I teach her the Chinese version. And the Chinese version sounds something like this: Rasa sayang, hey, rasa sayang, sayang, hey, hey, 祝我祝您祝大家平安健康快乐。祝我祝您祝大家平安健康快乐，耶！So that is the first way of practicing loving kindness through singing the Rasa Sayang song and positive fishing. In the Buddhist teachings of Metta, the Buddha talked about many benefits of Metta, loving kindness. Okay, and some of the benefits include having good sleep, having relaxed body, calm mind, very good affinity with human beings, and also protected by devas as well. So that's the first way. Second way of practicing loving kindness is by taking good care of our precepts, 5 precepts. Reason is, I mentioned earlier, if we don't take good care of precepts, we may generate unwholesome karma. Unwholesome karma may hinder the recovery from our physical illness. Out of the 5 precepts, I emphasize the 4th precept to my mom a lot. To me personally, I believe out of the 5 precepts, the 4th precept is the most difficult to keep. Okay, in a way, my mom doesn't abuse intoxicants. She doesn't drink alcohol. She doesn't cheat. She doesn't lie. She doesn't kill human beings. But my mom talk a lot. Not only my mom, actually all of us, including myself, all of us, from the moment we wake up in the morning until night, we talk and talk and talk and talk. Is more likely to generate unwholesome karma through speech than body action. So this is the precept that I emphasize more to my mom. So I told my mom, take good care of, be mindful of the speech. Okay, how to be mindful of speech? This one I think was spoken by Brother Pei in the last session. Brother Pei Kai Shen was talking about how to listen and speak like a Buddha. How to listen and speak like a Buddha. So this is about how to speak. So I came up with 2 mnemonics to help myself and to remind my loved ones on how to take care of speech. The first mnemonic is called DAGU. DAGU is a Malay word, DAGU. It's chin. So we try to avoid divisive speech. Speech that divide people, speech that make people quarrel. Try to avoid abusive speech, speech which is harsh, speech which hurt people. That's abusive speech. The third one is to avoid gossip, especially gossip which is harmful, which talk bad about people, make people quarrel. Okay. And of course, the 4th one is to avoid untrue speech which hurt people. Okay. That is for avoid DAGU. And then the opposite one, the right speech, is to say BATA. So whenever we want to talk, whenever we want to open our mouth, is to consider, is it beneficial or not? Is it agreeable to the person? Is it truthful or not? Even if the truthful, beneficial, agreeable to the person, we also must choose. We have to be wise to choose the appropriate time, the appropriate place, the appropriate person, the appropriate method, and also the appropriate mood, whether the person is the right mood to listen to. So basically, is to be mindful with our speech. The important is speech is karma. If we speech is karma, right? Unwholesome speech is unwholesome karma. Unwholesome karma can hinder our recovery in physical illness. Okay. Okay, I finished on loving kindness. Okay, now I go to the joy of gratitude. This one, the joy of gratitude, is related to what Dr. Ong. You remember you have a talk with Dr. Ong on how to be grateful during difficult times. So one of the difficult times is when we fall sick. Okay, so how can we be grateful when we be grateful when we are sick? This is how I practice. Okay, I will remind myself to focus on the things which are well in life. The WWW here doesn't mean World Wide Web. The WW here means what went well. So we should learn to focus on things which are well. But you may ask, when we are sick, we are not well. When we are sick, we are not well. How to focus on the things which are well? So this is the difficult part. So the way I practice is I will remind myself to be grateful by thinking along this line. That I will remind myself it could have been worse. Luckily, this is how I train my thought. I tell myself it could have been worse. Luckily, Give an example. Okay. Give you a specific example. Recently, just a few weeks ago, I had food poisoning, very bad food poisoning. I was admitted to Simile Medical Center in my own hospital. So I went to the emergency department. I was hospitalized. The physical pain was very bad. I had severe vomiting, severe diarrhea, severe stomach pain, and my breathing was so difficult. At that time, even breathing also was a problem. So breathe in caused the stomach pain. It was really horrible experience. Yeah. So during difficult times like that, how do we practice gratitude? So the way you do it is, I remind myself it could have been worse. So I try to meditate, I try to contemplate. So I told myself, this is how I think. Okay, actually it could have been worse because luckily now I'm staying nearby the Sunway Hospital. So I'm very grateful that I managed to call my good friend to send me to the hospital. My mom and sister cannot drive. Luckily, I have a good friend who stay around, can send me to the hospital and is nearby. So it could have been worse if I stay far away and nobody could send me to the hospital. And it could have been worse in such a way for that particular night. The ward, they only have one room left. These days, the hospital very lucky, So that particular night, luckily, the room, only one room left. And luckily, I was attended by one of the gastroenterologists who is my good friend, Dr. Ui. So I have a good friend to take good care of me. So I told myself, it could have been worse, It could have been worse. Luckily, my good friend there was there to take care of me. Luckily, they have a bed for me. And luckily, tell you, the experience was horrible. Luckily, it only lasted for 1.5 days. Luckily, I was discharged. So the pain was severe, but luckily it was impermanent. So this is how I remind myself. So I focus on the part that I feel lucky. It could have been worse. It's lucky in the sense that it could have been worse. Similarly, for what happened to my mom, okay, she was hit by a car, very bad leg injury. So usually our mind, we focus on all the horrible things, Of course, it was horrible. My mom hit by a car, it was horrible. But I try to focus on what went well. So I think along the line, it could have been worse. Luckily, there was a passerby, there was a lady. I'm very, very grateful to her. There was a lady who helped to call the ambulance. Luckily, there was a passerby to call the ambulance and send my mom. And very luckily, because Sunway Medical Center, very luckily, they sent to Simile Medical Center, which is the place I practice, so I can find the best doctors, the best surgeons, and the best physicians to attend my mom. So also lucky in that way. It could have been worse, Then actually that day, there was some mistake because there are two Simile Medical Centers. There's a Simile Medical Center in Subang. There's a Simile Medical Center in Velocity, Cheras. Yeah. So initially, the ambulance sent my mom to the wrong hospital. But luckily, they managed to contact me. Luckily, they managed to contact me and change the route and bring her to Simile Medical Center. And luckily, I work in Simile Medical Center. I can straight away go to the emergency department, alert my colleagues, and try to do the best for her. So that's how I think. That's how we can practice gratitude during difficult times when either ourselves fall sick or when our loved one fall sick. And okay, next will be transforming fear. Okay, it's very important for us to learn to transform our fear when we have physical illness, because fear, worry, anxiety will worsen the outcome. So let me tell you another story, also based on the Buddhist scripture, also called the Nakula Sutta. Remember just now, earlier on, I quote a sutta called the Nakula Sutta. Nakula's father asked the Buddha, "Oh, I'm old already, can you give me some advice?" So there's one Nakula Sutta. Apparently, there's another Nakula Sutta that was found in the Samyutta Nikaya. There's another Nakula Sutta found in the Anguttara Nikaya. Yeah, involve the same person. So Nakula's father. Earlier, he asked the Buddha, "Oh, I'm very old already. Give me some advice." So this time in this particular sutta, he was dying. He was about to die. He was gravely ill. That's how it was described in the sutta. He was gravely ill, very sick. Very sick. But when he was about to die, he got a lot of worries, But luckily, Nakula's mother, was very skillful. So he told the husband, "Don't worry, you die peacefully, don't worry. Okay, you don't worry about me. When you die, I won't remarry again. Don't worry about the kids, I will take good care of the kids." Don't worry about my learning of the Dhamma. I will continue to learn the Dhamma. I continue to take refuge in the Triple Gem. So one by one, the wife assured the husband. So interesting, he didn't die. After all the assurance, all the fears and worries gone already, he didn't die. So when the Buddha heard about this, the Buddha praised what the wife did. Praise. So it's sadhu, very good. Yeah. So whenever or any family members who fall sick, one of our job is to try to minimize the fears. Try whatever method you can. So that's one of the ways that I support my mom. Try to minimize the fear. Okay. How do you do that? Of course, there are many ways. Okay. One of the ways is to think of the Triple Gem. Especially if you have been a Buddhist for some time, especially if you have taken refuge in the Triple Gem for a very long time. Think of the Triple Gem. Think of the Buddha. Think of the Dhamma. Think of the Sangha. Okay? Think of Amitabha Buddha. Think of the Medicine Buddha. Think of Maitreya Buddha. So personally, for myself, I like to think of the Buddha in this hand posture. Okay? This hand posture is called the Abhaya Mudra. Abhaya Mudra. Abhaya Mudra. Okay, it means Abhaya means fearless. Abhaya means fearless. So I like to visualize the Buddha in this posture. And of course, think of the Triple Gem. Think of the greatness of the Buddha, the greatness of the Dhamma and the Sangha. So that is very helpful. Of course, with other methods, you think of the skillful way. For me, I like to think of the Buddha in this posture. Okay? In my house, I have this picture. Okay? Again, in the Abhaya Mudra, fearless. So I always remind my mom this Buddha's posture. So in Chinese, I share with her, Abhaya Mudra is the Buddha is telling us, 不用怕, have no fear. 不用怕, have no fear. I noticed that when I told you earlier that I was hospitalized recently for food poisoning. There's something very interesting I learned, something very valuable that I learned when I was sick at the time. I learned that when we are sick physically, our mind won't be that strong. It's quite natural. So I'm physically healthy now. I can deliver this talk. I can talk confidently. But when we are sick, naturally, the mind will very easily become negative. So if you want to think you want to actively think, because the body is big, you want to actively think in a healthy way to think of the Triple Gem. Sometimes it can be challenging. I have learned something very interesting during my recent stay in the hospital. I learned that chanting can be very powerful. So I listened to Bande Inda Ratana's chanting, the resident monk in Subang Jaya Buddhist Association. So he has Buddhist chanting uploaded on YouTube. So at that time, I tried to be positive. I tried to think of the Triple Gem. It was very difficult. A lot of physical pain. There are a lot of mental distress as well. But there was a moment when I listened to the chanting. My mind became very peaceful. My mind became very peaceful. Yeah. So I couldn't think of the Triple Gem, but listening to the chanting remind me of the Triple Gem. I still remember when I listened to the chanting, I had a dream. I felt that when it was a dream, I felt that the devas were visiting me. I really felt that. I felt that the devas were visiting me. Earlier, there was a moment that my physical pain subsided. So all the vomiting stopped, the diarrhea stopped, the stomach ache also stopped. But there was a moment my mind was very restless. I don't know why. The mind was extremely restless. Even the physical pain subsided. But luckily, the chanting was there. And I managed to fall asleep. It's very important because sometimes when you are sick, you cannot fall asleep. Wow, that is a difficult part. The mind doesn't shut off, It's like you cannot find the button to rest. You cannot find the button to shut off. But I was very grateful, very fortunate at the time. I listened to the chanting. the Metta Sutta, the Ratana Sutta, the Mangala Sutta. I felt very peaceful. I was able to sleep. And when I was sleeping, I think I dreamt. I'm not sure whether the Deva visited me or I dreamt of the Devas. I managed to sleep. When I opened my eyes, I was able to smile. So lesson, when we are sick, sometimes the mind is very weak. We need someone to chant to us. We need somebody to chant to us. And thinking back, I think I have a special affinity with Bhante because Bhante is actually he was doing his master's in psychology and is doing his PhD in psychology now. So previously, I actually supported him in his master's research. So doing a research on mindfulness for nurses. So I have a special affinity with Bhante. So somehow his chanting inspired me a lot. Hey, another way of overcoming fear is to avoid the idiot syndrome. To avoid the idiot syndrome. Have you heard of the idiot syndrome? Some of you may be new to this idiot syndrome. So what is idiot syndrome? Idiot syndrome means internet-derived information obstructing treatment, which is a hindrance for doctors while treating people who blindly trust medical information available online. Basically, is consulting Dr. Google and trust Dr. Google 100%. This is a huge problem in my clinic. I see a lot of patients with this problem, especially if you got anxiety disorder, either the kanjiong type, if there are a lot of fear and worries. Wow, this is a terrible thing. So basically, it's a condition that people read a lot of medical information online, and then they got confused. They got confused by the information. That is not helpful. So my suggestion, instead of blindly believing what is the internet, so I have some practical suggestion. Okay, number one, use internet medical information as just a guide instead of the absolute truth. Use it just as a guide. Number two, try to find a patient and compassionate doctor to help you to understand the information. Find a good doctor. Okay. If you can't find a good doctor, I suggest you practice the Dhamma more, generate more good merits so that you can find a good doctor, a patient doctor who can help you to analyze the information. Okay. If you cannot find a good doctor, at least find a wise friend who is medically informed so that you can discuss with the wise friend and guide you in making a medical decision. Okay, the next one is relax to the max. Basically, is try to reduce stress. It's very important. I do not know of any physical conditions which is not worsened by stress. Any form of physical illness, diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol problem, heart attack, stroke, any physical condition, they are always worsened by stress. So it's important to learn to handle stress. How to reduce stress? There are many ways. You can practice meditation, qigong, yoga, self-hypnosis, physical exercise. Choose the one you like. Okay, whatever. So one thing that I'm very proud of my mom. My mom is a very serious qigong practitioner. She has been practicing qigong for more than 20 years. So I'm very proud of her. She's very determined. Even though she had a leg injury, she still practiced the qigong, which is very, very useful. I also teach my mom to practice qigong with some with Buddhist flavor. For example, sometimes when you practice qigong with the hand movement, so we have the hand movement. Okay, sometimes with the hand body movement, the mind runs away. The mind is thinking of other things. Yeah. So the way one of the simple ways I guide her in qigong with the Buddhist flavor, I said when you do the breathing, at least in the heart, you can recite: body is sick, mind is healthy. Body is sick, mind is healthy. Or 生病心不病，生病心不病. That helps her to bring her awareness to the present moment. So sometimes I also ask her to do the qigong and sing the Rasa Sayang song. May you, may all be safe, healthy, and happy. So it's Qigong for the body and Qigong for the mind. So choose whatever the relaxation exercise that suits you. If you don't know what to do, don't know what to practice, you may want to try the Kindfulness rest shop that I teach online. So I run a course based on the principle of kindfulness. Kindfulness is mindfulness plus kindness. Mindfulness and kindness, which is used in medicine these days to help people to reduce stress. Yeah. You don't have to sign up for the course. It's free. I conducted this course previously. I did under BGF as well. All the lessons, all the talks have been uploaded on YouTube. So if you're interested, you can go through the course online. Okay, the last one, last but not least, this one is to focus on what I can do or what we can do when we are physically sick. Some of us have the wrong understanding of anatta. One of the Buddhist teaching is called the doctrine of anatta, not self. And one of the ways to describe not self is not fully within our control. So the Buddha is trying to remind us through the doctrine of anatta that everything in life is not fully within our control. But sometimes we are confused with what the Buddha says. The Buddha never said that everything is not under control. The Buddha only says that it's not fully within our control. It's not fully within our control. It doesn't mean that we have no control at all. So when we are physically sick, so we should remind ourselves there are many things which are not within our control. Whatever which is not within our control, let it be. Try to let go. But there are many things which we can do. For example, we can find a good doctor. Okay, we can learn more about the medicine. Okay, we can practice the Dhamma, observe the precept, practice loving kindness, and many things that we can do. So always focus on what we can do instead of focus on what can go wrong. People with a lot of fear, anxiety, like to focus on what can go wrong. So I have to switch the mind, change channel, switch the mind, change channel from what can go wrong to what can I do. In a way, it's a practice of karma. Karma, we have the past karma, we also got present karma. We should focus more on the present karma. Okay? One of the causes of physical disease is karma. It's true, one of the causes. But we should not be a slave to our past karma. We can generate the present moment karma as well. So one of the way to generate the present moment karma is by asking, what can I do? Focus on what we can do to keep ourselves healthy physically and spiritually. Yeah, so focus on what can we do instead of what can go wrong. There's one Dhammapada verse that I would like to share with you. This comes from the Dhammapada verse 204. The Buddha says that health is the highest gain. I like to quote this to remind myself, health is the highest gain. What I'm trying to highlight is health needs to be gained. Health doesn't come free. We have to gain, we have to do something. So focus on what we can do. That is good karma, that is wholesome karma. Okay, so I finished sharing the 5 methods on how to improve our mental health when we are physically sick. I will move on to the last part of the talk. The last part of the talk is on how to prevent poor mental health related to physical illness. Okay, the earlier 5 points of method, they are meant for us when we are already physically sick. Then we are very physically sick, then our mental health not that good. There are ways to improve the mental health. So this part is more of prevention. They're physically still healthy. Okay? I'm sure many of you here physically healthy. At the moment, it's healthy. But Life is anicca, is impermanent. One day now it's healthy, we will be sick one day later in the future. So how do we prevent the poor mental health in the future, which is related to physical illness? Of course, whatever methods that I shared earlier, they can be applied as well. They can use for prevention as well. But there are few more tips that I would like to share with you. Okay. So first of all, I always remind myself it's normal to be sick. It's healthy to be sick. It's paradoxical. It's healthy to be sick. It's normal to be sick. It's okay to be sick. In fact, it can be useful to be sick. So this is how we should vaccinate ourselves. So booster, we need to have a lot of booster vaccination. Not the COVID booster. It's more of psycho-spiritual booster. We always remind ourselves it's normal to be sick. Why? It's important because one day when we fall sick, we won't be so shocked. So if you're mentally prepared that we can fall sick, it's impermanent. This is the Dhamma, that is reality, that is life. We won't be so shocked when we fall sick one day. So this is like one of my mantra, it's one of my chanting. It's normal to be sick. It's okay to be sick. It's healthy to be sick. In fact, it can be useful to be sick. Would you agree that it can be useful to be sick? It can. Yeah? It can if we learn to think in a wise way, if we learn to think in a rational way. You still remember one of the previous speakers, Dr. Alvin, Professor Alvin. He talks about rational emotive therapy. How to think rationally, how to think wisely. Yes, it's possible. If we can think wisely, think in a creative way, it can be useful to be sick. For example, I go back to my recent experience. I was hospitalized for food poisoning. In a way, I love to be sick on and off because I learned to empathize my patients more. Doctors, sometimes we have been practicing for a very long time. Sometimes, especially when we overwork or we burn out, we may lose the empathy. So I find that one of the ways to cultivate empathy is to fall sick on and off. Because we fall sick, we learn to be a patient, learn to be nurse, learn to be attended by other doctors, learn to go through the physical discomfort. I find that helps me to be more empathetic when I relate to my patient. Second part is important to have supportive karma. So while we are physically fit, try to generate as many good karma as possible. Take refuge in the triple gem, observe the 5 precepts, meditate, learn the Dhamma, share the Dhamma, transfer merit, share merits, do service, donation. So these merits are very, very, very useful to support our life, including when we fall sick. Have you ever wondered why some people, when they're sick, it's very difficult to recover? While some people, when they're sick, it's very easy to recover. Some people, they're very fortunate. They get a very good doctor. They find the correct medication. They can recover very quickly. There are some patients, they have to go one doctor to another doctor to another doctor, and the medication also not suitable. They change from one medicine to another medicine to another medicine, still cannot find the correct medicine. So personally, I believe one of the reasons is because of karma. The sickness is the same, but the karma is different. The causes, conditions are different. So it's important to generate lots of supportive karma when we are physically healthy, especially when we're physically healthy. And the last part, okay, this is very, very, very important. How can we be totally free from sickness? Totally free from sickness, physically and mentally. The only way is to be enlightened. To be enlightened. Okay. So whatever tips, whatever advice that I shared tonight, the most is it can help us to reduce stress, reduce anxiety, depression. But it cannot totally prevent physical illness. To be totally free from physical and mental illness, to be enlightened. To be enlightened. The reason is if you're reborn again, because a Buddhist, we believe in rebirth, if you're reborn again, you're still subjected to physical illness. Yeah, so the cycle repeats. Yeah, so if you are really serious in practicing the Dhamma, you should aim for enlightenment. You should continue to learn the Dhamma. So what I share with my mom is, for my mom, I tell her, you try the best to learn the Dhamma. Okay, if possible, be enlightened this life. If not enlightened this life, at least try to be a sotapan. A sotapan is a stream winner. It's the first stage of enlightenment. So for first stage enlightenment means guarantee enlightenment within 7 lives. Not too bad, 7 lives compared to round years and years in samsara, you know. So this is what I've been sharing with my mom, and I told my mom, this is what I sincerely share with her. Okay, if you can't be enlightened in this life, at least in the next life, you have to take refuge in the triple gem, do enough good deeds. At least be reborn as a deva. At least be reborn in the deva in the next life, and don't forget, reborn as the deva and to continue to learn the Buddha Dhamma. What is the logic behind that? The logic behind that is, if you're reborn as human being, you'll fall sick. It's natural. Old age sickness is natural. If you're reborn as Deva, of course, being born as Deva from a Buddhist perspective is still impermanent. Devas will still die. But at least you don't fall sick. At least physical sickness is not a major suffering by Devas. So that's why I told my mom. Okay, but I reminded my mom, you must make aspiration to be right at Deva in a place that there is a Dhamma. You must continue to learn the Dhamma. Because if you're reborn as a Deva, then you enjoy your life. And no more supportive command. You come back to the human realm again. You'll be physically sick again. You have to attend this talk again. How to be mentally healthy, how to be spiritually healthy. So as a practicing Buddhist, we should strive for complete enlightenment. If not possible within this life, at least to become a sotapan, a stream winner. You still cannot, at least to be reborn as the Deva in the next life and continue the learning the Dhamma in the next life. Okay, I've come to the end of this talk. Okay, let me try to summarize some of the main points. Basically, this talk is about how to be mentally healthy when we are physically sick. How to be 生病心不病, how to be mentally healthy even though physically sick. Okay, and I share with you the 5 methods. Okay, the methods are based on loving kindness. Other loving kindness, I taught the Rasa Sayang song. I also talk about the be mindful with our speech. Okay, and under the gratitude method, okay, I share the way to cultivate the thoughts of thinking along the lines of it could have been worse. Bad things happen, they're sick, but many aspects that it could have been worse. Luckily, something. Then the third method is to transform fear. One of the simple way is to think of the triple gem. Think of the Buddha, think of the Dhamma, think of the Sangha. And then my favorite is to visualize the Buddha in the Abhaya Mudra, the fearless posture. That is for transforming fear. And I try to avoid the idiot syndrome. Okay, number 4 is try to reduce stress. You can practice yoga, qigong, meditation, chanting. Okay, and also consider joining the Kindfulness program. The last one is to focus on what we can do. Focus on what we can do instead of thinking of what can go wrong. Focus on what we can do. Then last but not least, I said the ultimate way. The ultimate way to be free from physical illness and to be healthy emotionally and spiritually is to be enlightened. That is the ultimate way. Okay, so as a Buddhist, we should continue to take refuge in the Triple Gem and to practice the Buddha's teaching. Okay, so with this, I wish all of you safe, healthy, and happy. May I, may you, may all be safe, healthy, and happy. Yeah.